phone watching a movie?
No, you may go. Really? Can you go play out in your fort? Honey. Please. Brett, what are you doing, honey? I don't hear ya. I'm working. Kip, can you find my phone?
Can I watch movies?
No.
Okay. I'm watching TV. Watch a movie.
Why is it all of a sudden this lighting is terrible? Will you do me a favor? Will you get my charger? Please.
Fine.
Hey, do you know where it is?
Mm-hmm.
It's right by my bed. No, that's not my charger.
Mm-hmm.
Because it has my charger has that extra thing on it. How is this recording already?
Hello, Social Work 451. This is a middle childhood and bullying presentation / PowerPoint conducted by Emily Bowens, Gail Lewis, and Mr. Charles Young. We hope you guys enjoy our presentation. All right, we have 3 discussion questions for you guys to consider. Number 1, how does bullying impact someone's health? Number 2, what are the differences between conflict and bullying? Number 3, what are some interventions for the bully and the victim a social worker could use? Those are 3 discussion questions to consider.
Okay, next we're going to give you some background information on middle childhood. Middle childhood is defined as ages about 5 to 6, all the way up to age 10 to 12. We also call this age school age children because obviously that's when kids are in elementary school and middle. And this includes a shift in the early 1900s away from kids working to compulsory education. Background on the physical development that happens during middle childhood. During this age, you see improvement in fine and gross motor skills. As far as physical activity goes, if kids are not getting enough exercise, we start to see increased cases of obesity. And we also have the opposite issue, is if kids are getting too much excessive training in one area, they can develop lots of injuries. So those are kind of the the two physical problems we're dealing with at this age group. And we're also seeing puberty in this age group. For puberty, what we've noticed is that, or what researchers have noticed is that non-Hispanic African-American girls and boys begin puberty earlier. The mean age of menstrual cycle is about age 12, and this is down from age 15 over 100 years ago. Physical changes start for both boys and girls at about the age of 10. It is agreed upon that early and effective health education is needed, and that refers to sexual development, protection, prevention, and health. In addition, there's a need for supportive family and community adults during this time for middle childhood. As they're seeing all of these physical changes, they're getting more attention because either they're showing strengths in certain sports and physical activities, or they're growing very quickly, or they're not growing quickly. So kids really need adults during this time to encourage them, to let them know that this is normal and that variation among their friends is normal. Some of the middle childhood risks include children in poverty, being malnourished and not receiving appropriate health care. Little things that go unchecked, like vision impairment, even if it's slight, an untreated ear infection or poor dental hygiene, really start being noticed about this time and may begin to affect other areas of development, such as their cognitive, emotional, or social well-being. In addition, this is where we start to see accidents such as drowning, playground accidents, sports-related injuries like we discussed earlier. And the reason for this is because I'm so sorry, you guys. I may have to stop. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Do you guys hear me? Hold on one second.
Not a problem.
No, I don't. Can you go with Daddy? I'm gonna give you the key. You got the back door? Don't lose it. Did you guys hear my kid on the door?
It's all good.
Okay, can we just like cut that out?
Let's just continue.
Yeah, I think we can. Okay,
We'll be okay.
awesome.
there.
Okay. Okay, and what's interesting to note here is that a lot of these accidents are due to the fact that there's decreased adult supervision during these ages. And it's not because parents are all of a sudden busy, but they are overestimating their child's safety related knowledge and their ability to implement some safety practices. So that's why you tend to see an increase of accidents during this age. It's also important to note that 1/3 of rapes occur before the age of 12, which is during middle childhood, and suicide is a leading cause of death in 10 to 14-year-olds. We're going to move on to cognitive changes in middle childhood. During middle childhood, the brain synapses present at the beginning start to gradually eliminate if not used. Therefore, it's important that kids keep learning, that adults keep giving them new opportunities and things to learn, new sports, new musical instruments, and obviously academics are always there in school so that their brain can continue to grow and be refined appropriately. Identification and potential diagnosis of special learning needs also peak during this time, which is important for the social worker in the schools because she might be a part of the team that looks at IEPs and things like that. One of our developmental theorists, Piaget, he talks about this age group being in the stage of concrete operations from, as you can see in the middle of the screen here, from ages 7 to 11. It's during this phase that a child can solve concrete problems by using logical problem-solving strategies. And what does that mean? Well, this is what that means, or what you would see during this age group. One, children in this age group can use logic to solve problems tied to their own direct experiences using inductive reasoning. So it's very basic. So basically, you might say, oh, my apple is round, your apple is round, and my brother's apple is round, all apples are round. So it has that kind of logic, is based on things that they can see. And then they tend to kind of generalize to all apples, which may not be the case. So this may lead to some assumptions that are not true, okay, because it's based on very concrete things in their immediate environment. Number 2, children in this group, again, become experts of what they can see, touch, or experience directly. And because of that, they understand cause and effect, size, and distance. So for example, just being able to say, your size 4 shoe is bigger than my size 1 shoe would be an example in the early stages of this. Number 3, objects have an identity, even if that object changes in some way. So for example, a piece of chalk is still a piece of chalk, even though it's cut in half or crumbles. It still has the characteristics of that piece of chalk. They can understand that. Number 4, the concept of reversibility is apparent during this phase. And that's simply something like, I can melt an ice cube and it becomes liquid water, but it's still H2O. So that concept of reversibility, they understand that water can be solid or liquid, and then it can go from liquid to being solid and then to a gas. That's called the concept of reversibility. And the last characteristic is called the concept of reciprocity. And that is simply the idea that if I have a tall, skinny 8-ounce glass of water, a child during this stage could look at another 8-ounce glass of water that was maybe wide and shallow and understand that they're both 8 ounces and therefore both the same amount. So those are kind of the 5 characteristics that you would note in this stage of development. Next, we'll talk about emotional development. During this phase, there's an increased ability to identify their own and others' emotions. Kids are better able to cognitively evaluate and control their emotions, which is important. And they have an increased ability to remain focused on goal-directed activities, so they can spend longer on a homework assignment, for example. And then they are able to utilize some adaptive coping skills when confronted with stressful and traumatic situations. Emotional intelligence is something talked about in regards to emotional development. Emotional intelligence is the ability to motivate oneself, persist in the face of frustrations, control impulse, delay gratification, regulate one's mood, prevent distress from swamping the ability to think, and empathize and hope. And emotional intelligence is very important. We find that kids can get along better in social situations such as in school when they have more emotional intelligence. And this is also an area where social workers can work with their students in the school setting, helping them to develop self-awareness, helping them to learn better impulse control and how to identify, express, and manage their feelings. And then I'm going to talk, my last slide I'm going to talk about is social development. The most widely accepted developmental task of this period is acquiring feelings of self-competence. According to Erik Erikson's stages of psychosocial development, it refers to industry versus inferiority. Children must develop a sense of competence to master and complete tasks, or they learn to feel inferior or incompetent. Therefore, adults and children's in this age group, they need to make sure that they're providing opportunities for students or children to develop these skills. They need familial and community support that encourages them to give children a sense of that competence. And it's also important that the encouragement is specific and it's genuine, because kids need to know what exactly they're doing well. So that's the specific. And then the genuine is because we want it to be a genuine encouragement, something they can see and be proud of.
Thanks, Gail. So moving on to what is bullying. So just to start out, it is thought that bullying may peak in the 6th grade. And according to the textbook, there are 2 types of bullying, direct and indirect. So direct bullying is things like physical bullying, it's direct. So things like fighting. And then indirect bullying includes like verbal, psychological, and social bullying. And then this also includes cyberbullying, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. And it is often wrongly believed that only boys are victims of direct bullying, but a lot of girls are also victims of direct bullying from other girls, actually. And then as of recently, there's also been a lot of attention about indirect bullying among girls, specifically things like cyberbullying, since there's just a lot of young girls that are shaming each other through verbal bullying and cyberbullying. Next slide. Gail?
Okay, sorry, it's not moving. Not sure why it's not moving. Did that work?
Yep, there we go.
Stuff.
Okay, so cyberbullying. Cyberbullying happens over any digital media platform, including social media, text message, chat rooms, through photos, videos, just about anything digital. And in recent years, cyberbullying has gained a lot of attention due to its frequency. So what exactly is cyberbullying? It is sending, posting, or sharing harmful or damaging content about someone. And then as of recently, a lot of kids, when they're being bullied, they refer to their bullies as like their haters. So I think it's just really interesting how online bullying now, like these bullies have like a different name. And then unfortunately, cyberbullying has also opened the doors to allow bullying to happen, even when a child is at home in the safety of their own house. And they have the potential to be bullied by people that they have never even met or come in contact with. And then since cyberbullying it is also an issue because it leaves a digital footprint. So what this means is that essentially anyone can see the bullying that has happened. And then it also allows the victim, they can kind of relive the bullying since it's there online. And then it was reported that teachers said it was their #1 safety concern for their students.
Thanks, Emily. All right, so conflict versus bullying. What is the difference? According to the Pacers National Bullying Prevention Center, I'm going to start with this diagram, and over to the left, we're going to go to conflict. Conflict is the disagreement or argument in which both sides express their views, agree to disagree, equal power between those involved, generally stop and change behavior when they realize it is hurting someone. So there's some wiggle room to try to, settle the conflict or settle the situation before it gets out of hand. On the other side, on the right-hand side, you have bullying. The goal is to hurt, harm, or humiliate someone. The person bullying has more power. I need you guys to really pay attention and highlight that part right there. Continue behavior when they realize it is hurting someone. This goes on all the time, especially during middle childhood times and, going through the middle school and high school phase. And down at the bottom where we had highlighted for power can mean the person bullying is older, bigger, stronger, or more popular. So just make sure that we realize that the person bullying definitely has a lot more power because it could be from their physical structure. They can be older and, they know more people. So next slide, please.
Okay, so the interplay of biology and bullying. So one of the reasons why bullying is so prevalent at this age is due to puberty and kids' physical and mental development. For example, girls may be bullied for how quickly or slowly they are developing in comparison to their peers. And there's just a lot of girls that are comparing themselves to one another. And then it is also important to look at how kids at this age mature differently. And this could unfortunately lead to kids being the bully because they may not understand the impact of their words or actions. Next slide, please. So cognition and bullying. So during this time period, most kids spend a majority of their day at school. And unfortunately, this creates a large window of time for children to be bullied. And then it has been found that children with disabilities are at an increased risk of being bullied, and this may be due to a few factors, such as physical vulnerability, social skill challenges, or their environment. But on the other hand, there is also research that suggests that some children with disabilities, again, depending on what they are and the child themselves, they may actually be the bully. Next slide. So emotional factors of bullying. So first, I'm going to talk about some of the protective factors. So one of these is that during this stage of development, children are starting to increase their ability to identify and articulate their emotions. This is huge since children are learning how to say what they are feeling. So it gives them the ability to tell the bully or a parent or a teacher or even a friend what they are feeling and what is going on. And then resiliency is also huge since resiliency has the ability to help children bounce back after being bullied. And one of the risks is that kids during this period tend to internalize their feelings and they feel things very strongly. So there's a chance that the kid is really being affected by the bullying because they are internalizing everything that is being said, or all the bullying. Next slide. So social and cultural factors. During the stage of development, peer groups and friendships play a powerful role. This, however, does have an impact on bullying. Take, for example, peer pressure. A child may feel pressured by their friends to not say anything or to stand up for a child that their friends are bullying. They may also feel pressure to actively contribute to the bullying simply because they just want to belong. Another risk factor is that children who are transgender are at higher risk of being bullied by their peers. And then this also includes children of a lower socioeconomic status, children of some races and religions may also be bullied by their peers as well. So the effects of bullying on health. So it should come as no surprise that bullying has a negative impact on children's mental health. Now, when looking specifically at cyberbullying, over 2/3 of children experiencing mental health issues have reported being victims of cyberbullying in the past year. Bullying has been linked to depression and anxiety in children, and children have reported increased feelings of sadness and loneliness, changes in eating and sleep patterns, along with a loss of interest in activities that they used to enjoy. And unfortunately, if the bullying was severe enough for them, the depression and anxiety can even extend into adulthood. online bullying increases the chances that a child will have poor social outcomes throughout their life. And then there are also health complaints. What they are feeling may manifest into physical symptoms such as stomach pains, tightness in their chest, and tiredness, all of which can also be physical symptoms of things such as depression and anxiety. In addition to bullying, it can have a negative impact on the student's academic performance. They are more likely to have a lower GPA, score lower on standardized tests, and they are more likely to skip or drop out of school. And there is also a small link between bullying and suicide. Most children never have thoughts of suicide, but it has been linked to suicide for some students when it has been severe enough. And then, unfortunately, it is also worth briefly noting that an extremely small number of children, and I do mean small, have retaliated to the bullying they have faced when they were younger by taking part in school shootings. This, however, is rare, and there are many reasons, unfortunately, that have led to school shootings, but bullying does seem to be one of those factors for some of them.
All right, so we're going to get into some of the social work prevention and intervention for bullies and victims. For the bully, there can be referrals for in-school counseling, family therapy with a strength-based approach, teaching a child to regulate their emotions. That could simply be with a care plan or just letting them walk outside of the classroom for a little bit to cool out. Something that you guys come up with, basically just to keep them busy and, get them away from whatever issue or whatever problem they're having. Increasing their exposure to people who are different from them, and offering reflective practice / supervision. All right, for the victims, they could talk to a trusted adult about fears and ongoing victimization. So their parents, a teacher, a dean, once again, another social worker at the school, some type of adult that definitely plays a solid role in their life. Avoid being alone where the bully may be able to hurt them. Just staying within a core group of friends or some individuals that can just stick around. Engage in group activities with like-minded people where restorative friendships can be formed. I know that there's like clubs and things like that and little groups at these high schools and these middle schools that these children can definitely join before and after school programs. Do not confront, antagonize, or try to solve a problem with a bully yourself. That is a huge no-no. Okay. Research and development theories. There are 3 theories that the group came up with or ran into. And the first one we're going to go over is the ecological theory, used as a framework to review the documented risk and protective factors associated with involvement in school-related bullying during childhood and adolescence. Individual characteristics, going to the microsystem. Socio-demographic characteristics such as age, gender, race, ethnicity are frequently examined predictors of bullying behavior in school. Many studies report that boys, in general, are more likely to engage in bullying than girls. I've actually experienced this myself growing up. I was bullied back in middle school, so that's something I can definitely highly relate to. Last, family characteristics, another microsystem. Bullies tend to have parents who do not provide adequate supervision or are not actively involved in the lives of their children. So if this bully, so to speak, saw their parents arguing and fighting all the time while growing up, it's unfortunate they might end up, developing some of those ways as well. So, next. Also buffer the impact of involvement with bully experiences. Look at your peers. Bullying and peer victimization rarely takes place in isolated interactions. It usually happens when there's like a group of people around. Sometimes the kids like to try to show out and try to show, who's the bigger or better individual. So I've seen that before as well. Youth who have friends that bully will bully more. And those who have friends who engage in homophobic name calling will use this language. So basically, the company that you keep, sometimes it's unfortunate that, that's going to rub off on that child as well. So, social cognitive theory, that's the other theory. Definition: an important heuristic for understanding the complexity of bullying behaviors and the social nature of involvement in bullying. Social learning theory proposed that individuals learn not only through direct instruction, but also by observing others' behaviors and the consequences that follow. Cognitive behavioral interventions for aggression and bullying are influenced by SCT, social cognitive theory, and given that bullying has 273 theories of bullying, that's a lot of theories, and cyberbullying been conceptualized as a cognitive behavioral phenomenon, may be an idle approach to reducing bullying. Cognitive behavioral interventions on how one's thoughts and beliefs affect behavior. Lastly, the conflict theory. This is actually probably one of the main theories that are still, is highlighted today when it comes down, that's associated with bullying. Competition and members of the society are in constant conflict over resources, like that hierarchy, class, high class, middle class, low class, and that sort. Bullying viewed as destructive conflicts, basically just trying to tear down the next person. And dominant groups create an unfair competitive space where everyone is aware of the need to succeed and in consequence prove their importance over others. And this is where privilege can come into play. Conflict theory. And this is our works cited. You guys can feel free to look through it. We have plenty of information. Works cited continued, plenty of information. And yeah, I think that is about it. I think we're at the end of our PowerPoint.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Appreciate your time. Hello, Social Work 451. This is a PowerPoint presentation on middle childhood bullying by Miss Emily Bowens, Gail Lewis, and Mr. Charles Young. Hope you guys enjoy our presentation. 3 questions to consider while you guys are going through this presentation with us. Question number 1, how does bullying impact someone's health? Question number 2, what are the differences between conflict and bullying? Question number 3, what are some interventions for the bully and the victim a social worker could use? Just something to think about throughout this entire presentation.
We're going to start off with some middle childhood background information. Middle childhood is defined as the ages from about 5 to 6 all the way up to age 10 to 12. This is known as the school-age child. And this is a shift away from children working that happened in about the early 1900s. We're going to talk a little bit about physical development. During this phase, you see improvement in fine and gross motor skills. It's interesting to note that some of the physical development can go one of 2 ways. We have children developing obesity versus the opposite of that, which is children getting such excessive physical training in one sport, saying like running or baseball, and then encountering injuries because of that. And then the other physical development we want to talk about is puberty. During puberty, it can be noted that African American, non-Hispanic girls and boys begin puberty earlier. The average age of menstrual cycle is age 12, which is down from age 15 about 100 years ago. Physical changes start about the age of 10 for both boys and girls. There is definitely a need for early and effective health education, including sexual development, protection, prevention, and health. And adults in the community, parents, teachers, need to be emotionally supportive of children, particularly in this time, as their physical changes are out in the open. People notice if you're growing tall or you're not, if you're developing or you're not. So we need to remind children that just this change is normal, it's to be expected, and the variation is normal. Some of the risks that start to become seen during this time: children in poverty, their health care is already starting to fall. They're not able to get to the doctor for simple things like an ear infection, or their eyesight, maybe needing glasses. Those things are starting to affect them if they do not have good health insurance or their family is in poverty. Malnutrition is another risk factor we see during this age group. It is wonderful that we have free and reduced lunch programs so that children can be given breakfast and lunch every day to make sure they're getting at least those 2 meals. Other risks we see during this time is because parents tend to overestimate their child's safety-related knowledge and their ability to implement safety practices. So we see an increase in drowning and playground accidents, sports-related injuries, unfortunately. It also can be noted that 1/3 of rapes occur before the age of 12. And suicide is a leading cause of death in 10 to 14-year-olds. Cognitive changes in middle school. Brain synapses that have been growing, they start to be pruned off if they're not being used. So because of that, it's important that kids are continuing to learn and gain new experiences so that their brains can keep growing. Otherwise, they will be pruned and eliminated. This is a time in their life where the identification and diagnosis of special learning needs tends to happen. One of the theories on cognitive development by Piaget shows these kids in that middle age group in concrete operations. What are concrete operations? These 5 characteristics. 1, kids in this stage are able to use logic to solve problems tied to their own direct experiences using inductive reasoning. It's very basic reasoning, and it's not always correct. So it might be something like, my apple is red, your apple is red, and her apple is red. All apples are red. So you can see they're using what they can see, but it's not necessarily the correct way of interpreting something. Another characteristic, number 2, children become experts of what they can see, touch, or experience directly. So this means that they can recognize cause and effect, size, and distance. Number 3, they are able to see that objects have an identity, so that even if that object changes in some way, it doesn't, like it's altered. Let's say you break a piece of chalk. It's still chalk, even though you break it. Concept of reversibility, things like water is H2O is still H2O, regardless if it's a liquid or a solid being ice. That's reversibility. They understand that. And the last one, number 5, concept of reciprocity, which basically says if you have 8 ounces of a tall skinny glass, it'll be the exact same amount of an 8 ounce wide and shallow glass. They can now understand that, whereas before they would not have. Emotional development. What's neat to see is that kids are having an increased ability to identify their own and others' emotions, which is important during this time. They're better able to regulate their emotions. They can sustain focus for a little bit longer, and they are using adaptive coping skills when they're confronted with stressful and traumatic situations. All of these emotional developments that are happening is known as emotional intelligence. You can read the definition there. Emotional intelligence is critical for students, especially while being at school. They're in the social environment. Emotional intelligence is something the social worker can work on with a student who is not having a good time socially, getting in fights or just not getting along with other people or being bullied. Emotional intelligence is something social workers will work on. In social development, Eric Erickson's stage of psychosocial, this stage is called industry versus inferiority. And this is important for students during this phase to feel competent in something. It's important for adults in their lives to give students an opportunity to succeed and encourage them specifically with what they're good at and make sure that their encouragement is genuine.
Okay, thanks, Gail. So what is bullying? So it is thought that bullying peaks in the 6th grade, and there are 2 types of bullying. These are direct and indirect. So direct bullying is when there is physical bullying, such as fighting. And then indirect bullying is verbal, psychological, and social bullying. But this also includes cyberbullying. And it is often wrongly believed that only boys are victims of direct bullying, but a lot of girls are victims of direct bullying from other girls. In addition, as of recently, there's also been a lot of attention about indirect bullying among girls, specifically through things such as cyberbullying. Next slide.
It's coming.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
So cyberbullying happens over digital media platforms. This includes things such as social media, text messages, chat rooms, photos, and videos. And then in recent years, cyberbullying has gained a lot of attention due to its frequency. So what exactly is cyberbullying? It is sending, posting, or sharing harmful or damaging content about someone. Cyberbullying has opened up the doors to allow bullying to happen even when a child is at home. They have the potential to be bullied anytime by people that they don't even know. And cyberbullying is an issue since everyone on the internet leaves a digital footprint. And this is really dangerous because it allows the victim to relive the trauma of the bullying again and again, since the social media posts or the text messages, they will always be there. And then a study found that while many major social media platforms have rules stating that users must be at least 13 to have a social media account, it was found that 61% of young people had their first social media account before the age of 12. And so teachers actually reported that cyberbullying was their #1 safety concern for their students.
All right, let's get into some conflict versus bullying. What is the difference? According to Pacers National Bullying Prevention Center, we're going to start here on the left side. Conflict. Conflict is the disagreement or argument in which both sides express their views, so agreeing to disagree. Equal power between those involved, so there's no hierarchy. You guys on the same level. Generally stop and change behavior when they realize it is hurting someone. That's the conflict side of things. On the bullying side, over to the right, the goal when you're bullying is to hurt, harm, or humiliate someone. I really need you guys to highlight this one right here, the second bullet point. The person bullying has the power. We'll come back to that in a second. The third bullet, continue behavior when they realize it is hurting someone. So they're going to constantly keep doing it until they see that somebody is actually hurt. Down at the bottom, power. Power can mean the person bullying is older, bigger, stronger, or more popular. And that's going to go back to that second bullet point under bullying, how the person bullying has more power. Just strictly off of bigger stature. Of course, they're stronger. And if they have more pull, they have more say-so, they're more popular. So.
Okay, so the interplay of biology and bullying. So one of the reasons why bullying is so prevalent at this age is due to puberty and their physical and mental development. For example, girls may be bullied for how quickly or slowly they are developing in comparison to their peers. I think it is also important to look at how kids at this age mature differently. This could lead to some kids being the bully since they may not even really understand the impact of their words or actions because mentally they're just not at the same place as some of their peers. So cognition and bullying. So during this stage, children spend a majority of their days at school. And so this ends up creating a really large window of time for children to be bullied. It was found that children with disabilities are at an increased risk of being bullied, and this may be due to a few factors, such as physical vulnerability, social skill challenges, or their environment. But on the other hand, there's also research that suggests that some children with disabilities may actually be the bully. So the emotional factors of bullying. First, I'm going to talk about some of the protective factors. During this stage of development, children are starting to increase their ability to identify and articulate their emotions. This is huge since children have the ability to tell either the bully, a teacher, a friend, a parent, or really anyone they trust about what is going on and articulate what they are feeling so they can be helped. Also, resiliency is huge during this stage of development since resiliency has the ability to help children bounce back after being bullied. One of the risk factors is that many kids at this age really internalize everything they feel. So this just increases the chances that a child will feel worse about themselves because of the bullying. So the social and cultural factors. During the stage of development, peer groups and friendships play a powerful role. This, however, does have an impact on bullying. So take, for example, peer pressure. A child may feel pressured by their friends to not say anything or to stand up for the child that their friends are bullying. They may even feel pressure to actively contribute to the bullying, just so that they feel some sort of sense of group and belonging. And then, unfortunately, other risk factors that contribute to children being bullied are their gender and sex, if they're transgender, if they're part of the LGBTQ plus community, if they come from a lower socioeconomic status, their race. It has been found that Black and Hispanic children who are bullied are more likely to suffer academically than their white peers. And then race or religion can also play a factor. So the effects of bullying on health. So it should come as no surprise that bullying has a negative impact on children's mental health. Now, when looking specifically at cyberbullying, over 2/3 of children experiencing mental health issues have reported being victims of cyberbullying in the past year. Bullying has been linked to depression and anxiety in children. Children reported increased feelings of sadness and loneliness, changes in eating and sleep patterns, along with a loss of interest in activities that they used to enjoy. And unfortunately, if the bullying was severe enough for them, these issues could extend into adulthood. Online bullying also increases the chances that a child will have poor social outcomes throughout their life. The child may have health complaints. What they are feeling may manifest into physical symptoms such as stomach pains, tightness in their chest, or tiredness. In addition, bullying can have negative impacts on students' academic performance. They're more likely to have lower GPAs, score lower on standardized tests, and they're more likely to skip or drop out of school. Bullied children are also at risk of suicide. However, most children, it never actually comes to the point of suicide or them even thinking about suicide. It is also worth briefly noting that an extremely small number of children, and I do mean small, have retaliated to the bullying that they have faced when they were younger by taking part in school shootings. This, however, is rare, and there are so many reasons that have led to school shootings, but bullying does seem to be one of the factors.
Okay, some social work prevention and intervention factors for the bully and the victim. Referrals for in-school counseling, some family therapy with a strength-based approach, teaching a child to regulate their emotions, increasing their exposure to people who are different from them, and offering reflective practice supervision. That is for the bully. And then some things that the victim should do. Try and talk to a trusted adult about fears and ongoing victimization, such as like a mentor, parent, aunt, uncle, somebody at the school that you truly trust, or somebody within the community. Avoid being alone where the bully may be able to hurt them. Make sure you have somebody with you. Engage in group activities with like-minded people where restorative friends can be formed. And lastly, do not confront, antagonize, or try to solve a problem with a bully yourself. All right, so we have a few theories that we decided to look at as far as research and development goes. And the first theory would be the ecological theory. It is used as a framework to review the documented risk and protective factors associated with involvement in school-related bullying during childhood and adolescence. Some individual characteristics, socio-demographic characteristics such as age, gender, race, ethnicity are frequently examined predictors of bullying behavior in school. Many studies report that boys in general are more likely to engage in bullying than girls. Some family characteristics. Bullies tend to have parents who do not provide adequate supervision or are not actively involved in the lives of their children. So if you have parents that are engaging in some type of physical conflict or arguing a lot, more than likely you're going to end up doing the same thing. All right, ecological theory continued. Supportive familial relations can also buffer the impact of involvement with bully experiences. As far as your peers, bullying and peer victimization rarely takes place in isolated interactions. So typically stuff like this happens at like parties, schools. It can even happen at like summer camps, or if you just went out and hung out at like the park or something like that. Youth have friends that bully with youth who have friends that bully will bully more, and those who have friends who engage in homophobic name calling will use this language quite a bit. The social cognitive theory. The definition for social cognitive theory is an important heuristic for understanding the complexity of bullying behaviors and the social nature of involvement in bullying. Social learning theory proposed that individuals learn not only through direct instruction, but also by observing others' behaviors and the consequences that follow. CBI, cognitive behavioral interventions for aggression and bullying, are influenced by social cognitive theory. And given that bullying has 273 theories of bullying and cyberbullying been conceptualized as a cognitive behavioral phenomenon, may be an idle approach to reducing bullying. CBI focuses on how one's thoughts and beliefs affect behavior. And one of the most highlighted theories is the conflict theory. That's really what typically goes on a lot more today. Competition and members of the society are in constant conflict over resources. So go off the class, high class, middle class, low class. That's always going to be an issue. That's definitely a form of bullying. Bullying viewed as destructive conflicts. And then you have your dominant groups that create an unfair competitive space where everyone is aware of the need to succeed and in consequence prove their importance over others. So this is a constant issue that we deal with today within the conflict theory of bullying. And lastly, we have concluded and came to the end of our presentation. This is some of our works cited. We have a page or two of this where it be continued. We want to thank you guys for your time. We appreciate you guys for sticking around, and hopefully you guys learned a thing or two during our middle childhood bullying presentation.